Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for attending Cannabis License Expert discussion on BC Farmgate and what to expect through this coming process. Today, we're joined by Shaheen and Chris. Shaheen works with Cannabis License Experts and Chris from CBS Security. So, Shaheen, would you like to introduce yourself and give a little overview of your expertise?
Sure thing. Thanks, Marie. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning if you're more on the west side. My name is Shaheen. I'm an RA QA consultant working with cannabis license experts right now. I've been in the field of cannabis since the beginning of 2020, and I've worked at another company, and it's been a few months that I've been working with the CLE or Cannabis License Experts team. And hopefully today you'll get something out of this new license that's going to be available for application next week. We'll hear more about it. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. And Chris, would you like to give us a little bit of overview of yourself and CSB Securities?
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. Again, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you're at. I'm the owner of CSB Security, Inc. We've been around since pretty much the dawn of legalization. We're talking the MMPR days. We specialize in security system designs to be compliant with the Health Canada regulations. We have gone out to many sites and filmed sites for Health Canada to issue licenses. We've designed almost, I would say, close to 460 compliant security system designs in Canada thus far. So we're here to try to answer any questions you may have in regards to security. Thanks for having us, and we look forward to those questions.
Excellent. Shaheen, I'm going to let you get started on your slides here. Anyone who has any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat, and we'll address them at the end of the slides. Thank you very much.
Hello.
All right. Should be up. Please let me know if it's everybody can see it, please. Okay. All right. I assume that everything shows and everybody can hear me. Hello again. My name is Shaheen. I'll talk about this the new BC Farmgate license that's going to be available next week. We'll dig into some details. So everyone knows it's been more than 4 years now since the legalization of cannabis, and there have been changes in 2019 to the Cannabis 2.0 kicked in, and we've been hearing about Farmgate starting with Ontario last year, practically starting this year, but Ontario was the first one and New Brunswick was the second one, and now we have the third Farmgate framework in BC. It's not actually called Farmgate in BC, even though I'll refer to it as Farmgate, but it's a producer retail store, or PRS. In case you see that throughout the presentation, it's the BC Farmgate. Having a look at the three provinces, Ontario, New Brunswick, and British Columbia, joining soon. It's obvious that Ontario has the biggest market share, and BC has the third one. I was surprised to see that with only 1.8%, New Brunswick has joined the Farmgate crew, even though it has a small share. And this is from the OCS publication, the first quarter of this year. So now I'm going to talk about other provinces. We'll get into BC. As of yesterday, there were 225 federally licensed LPs in BC, with 2 expired and 1 revoked license. And out of these, 169 do some sort of cultivation, either standard, micro, or nursery, which is one of the criteria to get the PRS license. And in terms of retail, there are 469 in total active retail stores, 15 coming soon. With respect to the public sector or public BC Cannabis Store, LDB, or Liquor Distribution Branch, oversees that. and the private stores are monitored by the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, which is also the entity that you have to submit your applications to for your BC Farmgate. So the BC Farmgate was announced on October 4th. They changed their provincial regulations to allow for this kind of business to be carried out. The intention of this is to obviously to boost the cannabis industry, and especially make it easier for the LPs to access local retailers and consumers. And hopefully it will include some of the rural and indigenous rural and indigenous communities to get more involved in the industry. The applications you can't submit them yet until next week, Wednesday, which is through the portal of the liquor and cannabis licensing. And on their website, they also said that they're going to have a digital licensing handbook and operational requirements, which will be helpful. I'm guessing it's similar to what Health Canada recently did with their requirements for license application. It's getting easier to navigate through the regulations, which is always a good thing. So who's eligible for BC Farmgate license? You got to have some sort of federal license for cultivation. Again, standard micro or nursery. It's fine if you have a processing license. In fact, at some point during your operations, when you want to package, if you don't have your processing license yourself, you have to partner with another LP that has. But if you have processing only license, then you're not eligible for this. And it's also one PRS license or one BC Farmgate license per federal license. So you couldn't have two stores with one federal license. And you got to be 19 years and older. And the only thing they mention about business is that it has to be a standalone, but it could be private, public, sole partnership, and whatnot. All those are eligible to apply for this license. Now we'll talk about the overview. The next couple of slides are a general overview, and then I'll go through the steps that I extracted from the BC government website. So the whole point of Farmgate is for LPs to be able to sell their own products. So the retail store has to be at the site or near the site without overlapping with the operations in the cultivation facility. And the first step, as we will see, you want to once you have a location, you have a piece of land or a building, you want to contact the local government or indigenous nations, whichever apply in that region. So you can make sure that they're okay with it in terms of proximity to school, libraries, and other places that they've set. And once you submit your application, the LCRB general manager consults the local government or indigenous nations for approval or rejection. But at the end of the day, they're not bound by their recommendation, so they can use their own discretion and approve or reject. The fees. Application fee is the $7,500. Your first year licensing fee is going to be $1,500, and every year that you want to renew it, moving on, it's going to be another $1,500. And as you know, like other cannabis licenses, whether federal or other provinces, generally not refundable unless you submit something by error and something happens that is fully out of your control. But if you pay the fees, and as it turns out the local government is not on board with your plan, that's not good grounds for a refund. So this is a very general overview, and I apologize that the slide is a little too cluttered with text. But essentially, what you need is that you have to show that you have a business. So you have a business number. The CRA has issued a 9-digit number for you. You have your federal license. Federal license number issued by Health Canada. You got to be a business in BC, so you need your business BC ID. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I've been saying BC ID. Store name and location, In case you don't have, in case it's a rural place, you might not have address, so you need your parcel identifier. And like other licenses, both the applicant and all the directors, shareholder, partners, whoever has interest in the license and have their name there, they go through both financial check and security checks. And during the application, you also have to declare if you or your partners have any active cannabis license or have applied for another one. So everything gets crystal clear in the process. So let's go through the steps. Again, as I said, I took this information on the BC government website. It's nicely put together. I didn't include everything because it would be too cluttered, but because they had numbered the steps, we can go through them. As you will see, as we get towards the end, it's not exactly a linear process. There's some overlap in terms of what you can do, but let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can learn from this. So your starting point, again, is going to be your local government. Once you have a candidate land or building, you want to talk to them and to make sure that they're on board with it. Anything with facility, building, construction, renovation, licensing permits tends to be a bottleneck in all application processes. So you want to start with this and get it out of the way. We'll see that again. Another bottleneck is when you're dealing with the physical location in step 4. Step 2, you want to make sure that you have all these things in place. So you have a full street address and or parcel identifier, the PID, and you want to make sure that you either buy the place or lease it, and you can show all the documentation that you have access to this facility or to this business legally. In case you find a place that's considered in the ALR, agricultural land reserve, you gotta. There might be some considerations depending on how big it is, which one it is, and whatnot. Again, you wanna double check these things before putting the documents together and paying the fees. Similar to other licenses, again, you have to do a financial check, a financial background check, or financial integrity. There's a 5-page form that you fill in. This is just the first page, and again, it's going to be for the applicant and all their partners and shareholders and whatnot. So it will ask for your financial information, tax information, and the starting funds, and in case you carry any debt, you also have to declare that. Step 4 is has a few items that we're gonna go through. So your store has to be a self-contained business, and when it comes to your application for the store, the physical store, you need to submit your floor plans, site plan, photos of the exterior, proposed store name and signage, and also you have to show that you have a secure storage planned. When you pick your name, any branding and signage, it goes through LCRB, but they don't grant any intellectual property. So it's all on the applicant to make sure that the name is unique enough and it conveys the message that they want to convey. And the floor plan and site plan also show if the facility, or if I keep saying facility, but I really mean the retail store. If the retail store shares any spaces with other businesses, as we will see, there are some restrictions in terms of in that term, and that they specifically ask for high resolution PDF, so something that they can zoom in and see, whether it's the cash register, the wall, the socket, whatever you want to show on the map or on the plan rather. Storage. Again, you're dealing with cannabis, it's regulated. You have to have a separate secure storage for your products. It cannot be shared with any other businesses, including your own federal cultivator facility. So the you must treat the cannabis that is in the store and in the facility as two different things. And any time that you submit any floor plan or site plan, you must show that how you're meeting all the criteria, either on the map or in a separate security plan of some sort, which Chris can talk about more. So with the floor plan, again, you got to show everything. You got to show all the doors, front door, back door, side door, the sales area, where the shelvings are going to go, the cases where you want to show the product, and location of the cash registers. Basically, anything that happens in that store has to be divided and cleared in terms of who goes where and what's being done. The site plan. So this is more of an overview. It's similar to that the 500-meter radius aerial view that Health Canada also asked. So you want to make sure that you include all the businesses nearby, the driveways, whether people can walk to your facility, if there's any shared space, which can be for storage at least. And so you have to declare all that stuff as well. And the exterior involves your entrance, which shouldn't show any products. Again, not a surprise. We've never seen otherwise. And in terms of the exterior pictures, you have to take pictures and submit along your applications. Pictures can be more than 6 months old at the time of submission. So if you submit a picture, let's say next week, but you're gonna submit the rest of your documents in 7 or 8 months, you need a new picture. And you could even draw. You could even you could even sketch out by hand to show how the exterior is going to look like. But at the end of the day, by the time you're ready for inspections, which we will get to, hopefully everything will be in place, because that's the second last step before ordering and getting your inventory. And the store name, again, it's related to the federal license, so it's going to be related to Cannabis Act and regulations. You can't promote in certain ways. You can't encourage intoxication. You can't imply that this is part of the government or government function. And also in terms of the wards, they have some specific examples. You can't use dispensary, medicine, pharmacy, apothecary, and so on. And as we will see for the signage, this still applies. So you got to pick a signage that is clear, that it's that has none of the forbidden words, and even your signage outside cannot imply anything related to medical cannabis, such as Green Cross, which I remember you see everywhere in California when you walk around. Okay, so that's for the physical location. As we saw, is that as long as you have your business registered in BC, you can apply for this license. I decided not to go through every detail because each type of business requires their own documentation and supporting documents and whatnot. But in general, your financial information, your tax returns, and consent to security check for cannabis, all those things are common. But then some of the details are different, which we're not going to cover today. So those were the criteria. Excuse me. Those were the criteria. Now at this point, we're ready to submit the application. So this is where the cannabis security screening form kicks in, and once you have this form requires your personal information, the application job number, which is once you submit your application, you get a job number, and then through that portal, the LCRB portal, you can invite your associates to submit their own forms and whatnot. Address of the store, the current mailing address, and how long you've been in BC or out of it for the past 5 years. And the associates, as I said, once the main applicant creates the profile and submits the application, they can invite the associates, so they go through their own financial integrity forms, cannabis security screening form, and whatnot. Now we're ready to upload. Remember, the first thing in terms of business that we need is that we need a business BC ID. And because it can take several weeks, again, you wanna start with this. It's another bottleneck that could hold you back, especially if you have a crew already working on your site and whatnot. You don't want to miss that opportunity. Now, everything we talked about so far, that if you meet all of them, in principle, you're good to go. Now, the BC government suggests that at this stage, you can finalize your purchase or lease of the store location, but it's always a good idea to have this in mind. Again, it's not always linear. Sometimes some things loop in the process and whatnot, but that's not a problem. So if your local government or indigenous nation is okay with the location and what you want to do, all the criteria that we talked about are met, and you've covered the fees, in principle, the license is granted. There's only a couple more steps that we need to take. So the next steps is that about security. Again, Chris will have more to talk about this, but in terms of the security system design and installation, you want audible alarm system, intruder alarm system, fire alarm, and the entrances all must have locks. And in terms of camera, you wanna capture the sales area, storage area, and interior and exterior, all entrances and exits. Pretty much the whole the whole store must be covered. And now, once you have your building ready, your signage, branding, name, your security requirements are met, the fees are paid, everything's good to go. You don't have inventory yet because you can still order. And in fact, when you request an inspection, you can't have any inventory. You can't have any products on site. The inspector will check everything that we talked about. They will go through the terms and conditions with you. They will also take some pictures, and they will let you know if there's if your store is compliant or if there were some observations that need to be fixed. Now, as the applicant or the future licensee, you need the Selling It Right certification. And also, if you hire someone that either is directly selling or supervises the sales of non-medical cannabis, they also need this certification. In addition to that, every local government, depending on where you are, they might require for more certificates and whatnot. You also want to check with that to make sure all the admin stuff is taken care of. So now you build your facility, submitted your application, paid the fee, got inspected, and now you're ready. So again, it's your responsibility. You don't automatically become that store that you wanted. You have to register with the LDB, and all your purchases are going to be from BC Cannabis Wholesale Warehouse or Direct Delivery Program of the BC government. You can't purchase from anywhere else, and of course, your own product, because that's the whole point of Farmgate. Next, as I said in the beginning, if you're a cultivator, you can apply for this license. But when it comes to packaging the product, you need a processing partner, or if you have your own processing license, then you can do it. Like in other cases, you can still sell plants and seeds, but nothing that gets packaged. And again, it's got to be your responsibility to register and follow through with LDB to make sure that you can operate. And there are some restrictions in terms of how you run the business. You can't just partner up with one LP and have dealings of that sort. And there are also no promotion or inducement as well, which again, because it has to be consistent with the Cannabis Act. So you got to be fair. even when you have favorites. And again, like the federal LPs, you have to submit your monthly sales report to the LCRB, and they will send your report to Health Canada. So it's a good idea, aside from what we covered, to look into different software, different platforms that can handle that monthly a monthly report. I haven't dealt with the monthly report, but I've heard stories from LPs that the monthly report is not exactly the easiest part of the job, and if you don't have a good software to capture that, it's gonna be a little difficult to clean it up after that. So to wrap up, some of these points are personal, but I think I'm personally excited about Farmgate because you can sell your own product, talk to your customers directly, reduces the cost in the process, especially if you just have to walk it over from your the cultivation facility to the store, or maybe a short drive and whatnot. You build better relationships, business relationships. At the end of the day, come down to human relationships, whether they like each other or not. I want to say that the LPs might be more concerned about the quality, because especially if it's their own product, you don't want to bring the product, especially now with this license or with the amendments that the BC government did. You can open your product in the store and inspect it, talk to the LP about it. LPs don't want to have shakes or anything that's been packaged badly or simply does not look good. It helps with consumer education. Again, it comes directly from somebody who was involved in the process. It creates jobs, and because it's a new venue for cannabis products to find a place, aside from just medical sales or retail. And the cannabis tourism. I can imagine, especially in BC, if you have some cannabis and then go look around that beautiful scenery, it's not going to be a bad experience. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you got at least a big picture of how it's going. Again, the application starts next week. And if you have any questions now or later, and anything RA, QA related, business solutions, please contact us, and we'll try our best to help you. Thank you for listening, and have a good afternoon. I'm just going to try to figure out how to stop sharing this.
That's good. We're back to everybody on screen, Shannon.
Oh, okay. So you're not seeing the presentation?
Nope, not any longer.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. That was
Thank you.
lot of insightful information.
Thanks
And
very much, Mary.
thank you. I'm super excited about this process as well. Cannabis tourism is such an overlooked part of the growth and development of our industry, and helping break some of those stigmas. So currently, I think you may have addressed the majority of people's questions throughout that presentation. We'll wait for some to come through, but in the meantime, Chris, would you like to give us some insights into the security aspect? One that I have a particular question about is, what is the biggest thing that people overlook when it comes to security in the retail sector?
Fair enough. Interesting question. Retail, believe it or not, is fairly simple. The regulations are pretty straightforward. It doesn't matter what province you're in, especially in BC. The biggest challenge we're going to have, and we're seeing a lot of when it comes to Farmgate, is you have to be careful about the regulations from a Health Canada point of view and the regulations from a retail point of view. They're two totally different sectors within the government. And so what I'm referring to is, let's say, for instance, you're a licensed producer, you cultivate, you process, you sell, and your perimeter is a fence line that is protected. Under the current regulations, you have to make sure that that fence line is protected 24/7. Under the retail application for BC, it states that you have to have a standalone building. The interpretation of what means standalone is different depending on your interpretation of it. It could be a building that is not attached to the actual cultivation site. It could be a building that you've protected separately from the cultivation. The biggest challenge you're going to have is make sure that you are complying with the regulations for your production site And by adding in a retail location, you're not falling afoul of the regulations, because let's say your fence line has now been disarmed. Let's say maybe you build your building too close to that fence line and people lean against it whenever they're waiting to get into your retail, setting off alarms. It's going to be a big challenge to make sure you're compliant on both sides. That's probably the biggest advice I can give. When it comes to security, it's fairly simple nowadays. Retail has its own regulations. Like we mentioned, cameras, full coverage of floor spaces, especially point of sale and where your cannabis is being stored. From a licensed producer point of view, I'm sure anybody on this webinar will tell you if they are a licensed producer, it was difficult to get a license with security. Just be mindful, depending on what you change of your perimeter and actually of your growing facility, you may fall afoul of the regulations.
Excellent. And now I'm just here for your insights, Chris, on top of that side. That was my personal question.
Understood. Insights, really, it's just make sure you fully understand the interpretation of standalone. When this was first being drafted, a lot of people had an issue with that comment that came down, because it means that you have to build a separate building. However, again, with anything in the cannabis regulations or anything with retail, it's the interpretation of what they mean by standalone. By the true definition, it means that you have to have a separate business entity. It doesn't state that you have to have a separate building. It all depends on what the regulatory bodies consider to be separate. So you're going to have to reach out to us to find out exactly what your site needs. There are sites that we've designed before that have been prepared for Farmgate. Obviously, there's things that you can do to sort of circumvent the challenges around having a shared perimeter, challenges around having an attached building. Again, it's all open for interpretation. You definitely have to reach out to us to find out more, because each facility is unique.
Excellent. Okay, so just to address Michael's question in the chat, yes, there will be a copy available. If you want to reach out to the email address that's scrolling along the bottom of your screen, we'll get you a copy. And as well, feel free to follow any of the people on today's panel on LinkedIn as well. And they can give you a little bit more direct direction, either towards CLE or through CSB security. Now, let's see. While I wait for a few more questions to come up, I don't want to take up too many people's time today. I know midweek is a busy day, but I just made some notes myself. So for Shaheen, when talking about the shelf space and the no exclusivity and no inducements, now if you have an LP who doesn't want to carry any competing brands, would that be considered a violation of that? Is that exclusivity by carrying 100% only your LP's product at your farm gate?
So my understanding is that you can obviously carry your own products, but when it comes to other ones, it says that you can't just work with someone exclusively. I'm not sure how it's enforced, because if you like an LP, if you like their operation, you like their products, you know them, and whichever cause might be, I'm not sure how that's monitored. Maybe there's some detail in their regulations that you have to work with at least 2 LPs. I'm not sure about that. But it's I'd seen that in Cannabis Act as well. So when it comes to enforcement, I'm not sure how that's monitored. I can look into it, actually. It's an interesting question. But I have a feeling that such a store ultimately would end up with maybe 3 or 4 LPs that they work with, and then other LPs that are interested because they see the store is up and running. They would come and talk, maybe, again, no promotion, but maybe they can have some shelf space. I guess at that point, if the store owner doesn't, if they have 10 visitors and out of the 10 they have rejected 9 or 8, maybe that could raise some red flags. That's my understanding of it. Not sure how it works in the once it's up and running.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. This is all a
Wish I
very
knew
new
more.
process, so we're going to be getting more information over the coming weeks as people start getting into this process.
Definitely. Definitely.
And for anybody listening, have no fears. We are with you throughout this process if you are one of our customers, and we will ensure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's and making sure that you have the most successful process. If there aren't any questions, I'm going to give everybody maybe another 40 seconds to type one in there if you have any personal ones for either Chris or Shane. And then we can kind of close and
Hopefully
wrap.
not too personal.
What's your favorite color? Both of you.
These days I'm going with orange.
Strong color.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think between the two of you, we have covered the majority of all of people's concerns. So I just wanted to thank everyone for attending today's BC Farmgate info session. For anyone who would like a copy, as Dylan said in the chat there, we do have it recorded on LinkedIn, and we'll also have an edited copy available for everyone. If you would like a quote for any services, please feel free to reach out. And as well, if you enjoyed today's session, we never say no to a positive review. So thank you all very much for your time, especially Chris and Shaheen. I know you've got to get back to work. You have people depending on you to get them your licenses. And yeah, thank you everyone again for taking, excuse me, getting over a cold, taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
See ya.
Take care. Goodbye.
Take care.